Easy Apple Crisp with Oats. Today on Rain's Kitchen and Garden, I'll show you how to make an easy, delicious apple crisp recipe. The apples are soft and sweet and the topping is crunchy. Here are the ingredients that you'll need. For the topping, I have half a cup, that's 75 grams of all-purpose flour. I have 1 cup, 90 grams of oats, old-fashioned oats or quick oats. I'm using quick oats today. Half a cup or 105 grams of brown sugar. And in this little bowl, I have 1/4 of a teaspoon, that's 3 grams of salt, and 1/8 of a teaspoon of cinnamon. I can't give that to you in grams because it's too light for my scale. And I'm someone who doesn't use much cinnamon. I find it just takes over all the time. So I'm only using 1/8 of a teaspoon, but feel free to add more if you like cinnamon. You could add up to 1/4 of a teaspoon if you like. I also have some unsalted butter. It's half a cup or 125 grams, and I've cut that up into pieces. For the apple filling, I have 6 medium apples. I'm using Macintosh today. 3/4 of a cup or 185 grams of brown sugar. In this little bowl, I have a pinch of salt, 1/8 of a teaspoon of nutmeg, and 1/8 of a teaspoon of cinnamon. The first thing I'm going to do is lightly grease my pan. Now I have a 9 by 13 inch glass pan here that's 22 by 33, and I'm greasing it with butter, unsalted butter. You can grease it however way you like. Whenever I'm doing sweet dishes, I grease with butter, and when I'm doing savory dishes, I grease with olive oil. And in the meantime, I have preheated my oven to 350 Fahrenheit. That's 180 Celsius or gas mark 4. Okay. I'm just going to set that aside and start making my topping. Let's make our topping first. Now in my bowl, I'm going to add my flour and my oats and my brown sugar. I'm trying to make it look all nice and fancy. I'm going to add my cinnamon and my salt as well. And I'm going to mix all of that together with a fork. And if I see any of those big lumps of brown sugar, I'm going to squish them down. Although I don't mind having a big lump of brown sugar on my apple crisp. Okay, now I'm going to add my butter. All of that butter right into the bowl. Sorry for the banging. If you have a pastry cutter, go ahead and pull that out now. I thought I did, but I can't seem to find it. So I'm going to basically cut my butter into the mixture with 2 forks until it's nice and crumbly. And this might take a few moments because my butter is really cold. Let me just mix it around first. Start working that butter in. I'm doing this as if I'm cutting a steak. I keep putting in the fork that way. It's funny the habits that we pick up, huh? Maybe I'll just use the 1 fork. See if that works better. As you work the butter, it'll get softer. You just don't want it melted when you put it in there. All right, I'm doing this the easy way. I'm going to squish up my butter, and I'm going to get that all nicely incorporated into my oats. I want a nice crumbly mix here. And my butter is cold enough that the heat from my hands is not going to melt it, so I'm not worried about that. But at the same time, I'm kind of, you know, breaking the butter up into little pieces. I think this is the easiest way to do it if your butter's really cold. That's much better. I think if I used the fork, it would have taken me all afternoon. Little exaggeration, perhaps. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Crumbly, crumbly, crumbly. All right. Just breaking up the big pieces of butter. That's looking good. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover this with cling film, and I'm going to stick it in the fridge while I make my apple filling. Got my cling film ready. So into the fridge that goes. Now we'll make our filling. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to peel all of my apples. I'm using Macintosh apples today. When you read Apple Crisp recipes, for the most part, I've noticed people always suggest you use tart apples. I'm not into tart apples. I don't like, look, I did that all in one shot. That must mean something. Yeah, I don't like tart apples at all. I like sweet apples. So I just think when it comes to recipes, if you don't like an ingredient, change it to something that you do like, because you're not going to eat it or enjoy it if you don't, you know? I actually read a little bit of myth or folklore that, geez, when is it? Is it on Halloween night, I think? Some night. If you're peeling an apple like this, and then you drop the core down, if you're a maiden who isn't married, it's supposed to go into the shape of the first name of your husband. So would you see that as a bee? I love all those, you know, those little bits of folklore that I think they're really cool, really neat. Who knows if that's actually true or not, but that's what the mythology says. All right. I hope I wasn't bumping my microphone there, my friends. Let's see. What would that be? A-E-G? A-E-G. Any AEGs out there? You know, this week I was going to put out a homemade chocolate pudding video, but the darn thing didn't set. It turned into a thick chocolate sauce. I ate it anyway. I'm not going to be a martyr. It was so good, though. I hope I can get that video out to you soon. Okay, now we shall slice. I've got all my stuff handy here. And I've got my bowl. I'm going to slice my apples, and I'm going to slice them quite thin because I like them thin, and I'm going to add them to my bowl. So what I find when I'm slicing apples, because I make applesauce a lot, and I can, so it takes, you know, I preserve, by can, I mean I preserve, not that I can, that I'm able to. I find that it's always easier to cut them from the bottom, if you put the bottom, because when I cut them this way, I tend to get a lot of the core in there for some reason. I don't know why, but that's what happens. So I cut them from the bottom, and I cut them into 4. And I put the cores and the peels out for the squirrels. They go crazy for them. They love them. Just making sure there's no peel on here. And I'm just going to slice these very, very thinly. Into my bowl. I know I just moved my microphone. Hold on, let me fix that. Okay, I moved my microphone so that it doesn't keep getting muffled. Because every time I was moving my arm this way, like this, my shirt was covering the microphone. You know, I've had this YouTube channel for over a year now, and I'm still learning. There's a lot to learn when you're doing it all on your own, you know? Actually, this year I just learned how to build a website. And not just build one, I had to learn about web hosting and how to use WordPress and how to use themes, and it was such a learning curve for me. But I'm trying my best to learn as much as possible. You know, I think that once you stop learning, you stop living. That's just my opinion. I was saying something on one of my art videos on my other channel, Rain Francis Art. I find myself, see this pinky? See that little fella? I find myself doing that a lot. Sticking my pinky out when I'm chopping or even drawing, coloring. Does that happen to you? Every time I see that pinky out, I go, get that pinky back in. I don't know why I do that. All right, 4 to go. You can hear my dog snoring in the background now. He's taking some deep breaths. Can you hear him? I don't think that's not something you can miss. Sticking my pinky in. Do you make apple crisps? Or do you make apple crumbs? Or apple cobblers? Or apple crumbles? I don't particularly know the difference between all of them. I have a book, though, that tells you the difference between all of those things. I think with a crumble, you add cream. Is that possible? You serve it with cream? Or is that a cobbler? One of these days I'll do a video on all those, because I love apple desserts. I almost had my pinky out. All right, last one here, and this one has a couple of little spots and bruises on it. Had a hole in it. I'm gonna just check that out as I cut it. That one's okay. That's okay. A little skin here. Is that the piece that had the hole in it? check that out. Just want to make sure it's okay and there's no bacteria in there. There, we're okay. All right. There we go. So all the apples are there. Now we're going to add the sugar and spice and everything nice. So in goes the sugar and our spices. Let me grab a spatula and I'm just going to toss that well. I want to get that all over the apples. It smells so good. That nutmeg, oosh, oosh, I said oosh. It smells delicious. Okay, I'm gonna go and get my pan now. And we'll assemble our apple crisp. All right, I've got my pan here and I'm going to pour my apples into the pan. And I'm going to distribute those evenly in the pan. Ooh, I'm already tasting this. Okay, now I'm going to sprinkle the topping over the apples. Now this is going to go into the oven for 45 to 60 minutes. You want the apples to be really, really tender. And I always say this, you know, it depends on the thickness of your apples, how thick you slice them, what type of apple you used. Macintosh is a very soft apple. Whereas if you used one of those yellow delicious, I think they're called, those are harder. Those apples are harder, crunchier, I should say. So they may take a little longer. What I suggest is maybe around the 45-minute mark. Just check on your apple crisp. If you can put a fork through your apple and you're satisfied with how soft it is, then it's ready. Get all that on there. If it's not, you know, tender enough for you, then just put it in for another 15 minutes and so on until you get it to the consistency that you like it. There. All the apples are covered, and that's ready to go into the oven. Oh my goodness, this smells so good. I can't wait to have some of this. This is comfort food, my friends. Now you can have it just as it is. That's how I prefer it. But you could also serve this with some vanilla ice cream or maybe some whipped cream on top. And it's best served warm. I hope you enjoyed this video today. If you did, please give it a like and please do subscribe. If you don't want to miss out on future videos, don't forget to hit the notification bell for more home cooking. And please share this video with anyone you might think will enjoy it. Thanks again for watching, my friends. I'll see you next time on Rain's Kitchen and Garden. Bye.